Thousands of rockets have been fired between Israel and Palestine. Numerous number of people have lost their lives, including children and women in this area of the world. United Nations has even issued a warning in regards to this whole conflict. According to them, this might turn into a full-scale war if things are not de-escalated anytime soon. In today's video, we'll be looking at what are the reasons why these people are fighting and what are some of the possible solutions, if any, to resolve this. My name's Gary and you're watching In Search of Life. Let's get started. At the middle of this whole conflict is one city, the city of Jerusalem. It is one of the holiest sites for three different religions. Jerusalem is the holiest site for Jews. This is where two of their holiest temples used to exist, and they were later on demolished by the empires of the time. More on that at a later point. Nonetheless, the city is very important to Jews. Jerusalem is a very important city for the Muslims as well. It is the third holiest site for Muslims. Basically, it is believed that Prophet Muhammad ascended to the heavens from Jerusalem. And finally, for the Christians, this is the city where Christians believe that Jesus Christ was crucified, buried, and then resurrected later on. All in all, this city has a lot of religious importance for a lot of different religions. One would assume with the city having such a religious and spiritual background, it would be one of the most peaceful and happy place around. In fact, it is nothing but the opposite of this. This city has seen a lot of conflict over the last many centuries. Just to let everyone know, in this specific video, I'm just trying to deliver the information as impartial as possible. I have no specific agenda towards a religion or one of the countries involved in this conflict. The only thing that I really care about is the endless bloodshed that's happening in this region, and perhaps if someone can figure out how to stop it. So way back in the day, the Romans come rolling through and they're like, hey Jews, we are just gonna kick you out, you please leave. And it wasn't that nice and simple. They were trying to kill them all, so they actually escaped and they left Jerusalem and the surrounding areas. At that point, all the Jewish people moved to different parts of Rome, which is current-day Europe. Even though the Jews had spread out throughout Europe, they were persecuted no matter where they went. In the 11th centuries, the Jews were persecuted by the Crusaders, believing that the Jews had killed Jesus. Later on, in a different part of Europe, they were persecuted for being, quote-unquote, the reason for Black Death in that region. These persecutions continued all the way till the 20th century with the Holocaust. Now, this led to a movement throughout Europe with very strong holding in Britain called Zionism. Zionism is a movement that believes that the Jews should have their own nation back in Jerusalem. Remember how I mentioned that this movement had a strong hold in Britain? The Foreign Secretary of the time, Arthur Balfour, gave his word to Zionist movement's leaders that he's going to do the best he can to ensure that the Jews have a land in Palestine. Now, you got to keep in mind this promise is being made while sitting in Britain about a country that exists in Middle East with a population which is 90% Muslim and Christians, by a person who has no control over this piece of land. At that point, Britain had no control over Palestine. And the strangest part is this is all being decided on behalf of Palestinian people while they're being ruled by a third party, that is the Ottoman Empire. As the World War I comes to an end, Ottoman Empire collapses. And this leads Britain and France to dividing up Middle East and taking it over. They allow a huge number of Jewish people to migrate to Palestine, and furthermore, the uprising of Hitler in Germany and the Holocaust that followed did not help the situation. A huge number of people moved from Europe, obviously, to escape the tragic situation that was happening in Europe. A lot of them moved to America or Palestine. Now, this led to a huge increase in the population of immigrant people in this area. This huge increase in immigration led to a number of riots and just unrest in the region in general. Toward the end of the World War II, the Britain was done with all of this. They wanted to leave and not have to do anything with what they had caused. Now, this is where the modern day conflict really takes shape. As Britain's trying to leave Palestine, UN votes to divide Palestine into two different states. One state that will be Jewish majority will be called Israel, and the second state will be still Palestine, but it'll have a majority of Arab. Now, obviously, Israel wanted this and they were all happy about it, so they accepted it. But on the other side, Palestine's like, dude, we didn't sign up for this. We didn't ask for people to come in. We didn't say just take our country and divide it into small little pieces. And they didn't accept it. Obviously, it's like someone showing up to America and saying, hey, half your country is no longer yours. It's Canadian now, the people are taking it over. Since then, there's been multiple wars, some initiated by the Palestinian side and some by Israel. Even though Israel has taken over almost all of Palestine, they've done nothing to integrate these people into their own society or to give back the territory back to Palestine in a controlled fashion where they can just happily coexist. If anything, Israel has tried its best to take over whatever is remaining through settlements. They moved about 600,000 Israeli people into the Palestinian area to reclaim this land. There's been numerous talks that have been carried out between the two parties involved in order to establish some sort of peace in the region, and majority of them have failed so far. So what has really kicked off this recent events of escalation? It's mainly three things. Number one, the forced eviction of Palestinian people out of their houses in the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
It's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
you are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي.
This is obviously something that did not set well with the people of Palestine because they're literally being forced out of their own houses. Number two, the violent clashes and conflicts between the Israeli police and the Palestinian people during the holy month of Ramadan. The Palestinian people believe that the police has been taking certain actions and steps in order to disrupt their right to pursue their own religion. And finally, as all of these things are being carried out by the Israeli government or the police, Hamas, a pro-Palestine militia group, gave them a warning. They pretty much asked them to stop doing all these stupid things or else they'll start bombing them. Israel didn't back out, so Hamas shot rockets at them, and which led to Israel shooting them back down. And since then, both the groups have exchanged numerous rockets, and each rocket just escalates the situation to the next level, and then the next rocket comes through, escalating it furthermore. Now, the possible solution to this whole situation is very complicated, to say the least. If you look at both the sides' arguments, at times it does make sense. For example, the Jews were trying to escape Holocaust. Where else would they go? They went to what they knew as home. On the other hand, it's the Palestinians. They believe they've been wronged. It was their country and it still is their country. How come these people just moved in and kicked them out of their own land? Both sides do have fair points, but at the bottom of this all, it's the common people who are suffering. It's the Palestinian people who have no government, who have no real infrastructure that can support them through a war. On the other hand, Israel has a stable government. Israel has a well-oiled war machine. They can continue this fight forever. So what are some of the possible solutions to this complicated problem that has gone over 100 years in the past? I mean, some people suggest making a one country where both Israeli and Palestinian people live together and they have equal rights and equal liberties. I don't see why people can't coexist, but that's way simpler said than done. Thank you for watching this video. If you've watched it this far, please hit the like button, share this video, and please leave a comment down below. And while you're at it, please subscribe as well. Thank you very much. Oh yes, oh, meet Monet. Who wants to get off me?